Now in the top part of the eye we've got most of the shadow, and it's really a rich dark brown, a reddy brown. So I put the dark brown in first, then I just layered that red very lightly on top of it. Then down here is quite dark, so I'm using my Derwent. This is a purple colour, and you can see I'm really going in very lightly, building up the colours, the shadows, the shaded areas. Remember, highlights will come in last of all, but I'm leaving the area mainly where that highlight is going to go. So I'm drawing around that, and that's going to keep it nice and pure, the paper. So when I put the highlight on there, I know it's not going to muddy with any of the colours that could have been underneath, and I would be able to get a nice crisp sharp colour all the way up to pure white if I wanted it. So first of all, I'm going to be getting all of the base colours in the eye. Then I'm going to come in with my paper stump and blend them all down into the tooth of the paper, getting rid of that grittiness, the graininess that we're seeing now. Now it's a good idea to have your pencils on the side, so you're not really pushing hard with the tip of the pastel pencil. And what about colours? How do I know which colours to use? Well, I ask myself what I'm seeing, as simple as that. Am I seeing pinks in there? But first of all, what's the main colour, the main tone? Is it light? Is it dark? And then I make the adjustments on top of that. Okay, so that's when I ask myself, is there a hint of pink or something in there perhaps? Okay, so all the main colours are in. This is that paper stump I'm using. Small roundish strokes. Not using much pressure at all, but just enough to see everything blend together. And as I said, go down deep into the tooth of the paper, which gets rid of that gritty appearance, that appearance that's coming from the texture of the paper where the pastel is sitting on the surface. You see I did the lighter areas first, now I'm doing the darker areas, and that's just so that I didn't smudge too much and muddy up those lighter areas. Now by doing this I can put more refinement, more layers on top. Now there are different types of pastel stumps, or these paper stumps out there, very reasonable in price, but there's hard ones and soft ones. So the hard ones are a rolled paper. You feel them, you push them, and you feel they're really hard and they're not pliable. And then there's some made out of rice paper, so they kind of look the same, but when you feel those, they are pliable. Now if you want to blend a lot, use the softer ones. If you don't want to move your colour around much, or you want to be more detailed, use the harder ones. So that's the basics. Now I'm coming in with brighter colours, more realistic colours, more accurate colours. Building up those layers nice and slowly. Remember, we won't get that lifelike glassy look until the highlight's in, but I like to leave that quite late normally, just so that I'm quite sure I'm not going to contaminate it. But you could put it in at an early stage, just need to be a bit more careful around it. Now after the initial bedding in of the pastel with the paper stump, you don't need to do it really anymore. That's pushed the pastel down into the surface of the paper, got rid of that grittiness, that graininess I said about. So when you put the pastel pencils on top, they now look very smooth, and that's what you want with the eyes. I never want any paper texture in the eyes. In the fur areas, it doesn't really matter. In fact, it can enhance it and look more textured, but in the eye we want that glassiness, that glossiness to it. You can build multiple layers up on top, as I'm doing now, adjusting colours, adding in very slight colour variances. If you're new to pastels or art in general, don't beat yourself up over not being able to see the colours, because that really will come with time. The more you're studying subjects, the more colours you will see in them. Now my favourite part when I'm doing eyes is starting to put the highlights in. Now here they're quite blue, but a very light blue. Don't want to just put white in there if that's not what we're seeing in the reference photo, because more often than not, if it's a brightly contrasty lit or high contrast image, very often it means there's a bright sky, a sun in the sky, and generally quite often blue in the sky. And that's what we're seeing in this case. So I'm not just going in with pure white, I'm using these kind of lighter blues. You see just little dots sometimes as well. And then around the edge of this bright highlight, we've got more of a vibrant turquoise blue. You're not really seeing it that well on the screen, but in real life I could see it easily. And then very light blue, almost white. And then even lighter again. Once again, that's not a white pencil. It's an extremely light blue. But as I'm putting more of the highlights on, all of a sudden within a minute it starts to get that glassy appearance. And only then am I coming in. This is pure white. I'm using a PanPastel pencil, but anyone would do for this highlight. And now I've done that, I'm going to add a bit more refinement again and more accuracy, because I can judge it a bit better now I've got that highlight in, because this is just the final finishing touches. If you've enjoyed this video, found it helpful, then you can watch the whole version of this over on my Patreon art channel. I've got literally hundreds and hundreds of lessons, different subjects, everything from ladybirds to servals and lions and birds, you name it, it's on there. Over 1,600 members learning from me every month, all age groups from 18 to 88, and we would really love to see you there. And please don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't lose me forever on YouTube.